Good evening. Today we're going to be starting Spirit of the North. I have played this game before. Congratulations, Serena, being first. I have played this game before, but it was like 5 years ago, so I've forgotten most things about it. The first thing we might notice is that we play as a fox, which is really the gold standard that other games really should be like learning from. That frame rate's looking a little bit low. I might want to turn the preset down a little bit. The default skin is a red fox, but I've got the Kitsune skin. Oh, thank you for the headphones. Also depicted here, the trip I had to walk to school uphill both ways every day. Did I unlock the skin? No, I just am a Kitsune, so this just happened when I launched it. Okay, I definitely need to turn that down a little bit. My controller seems to have stopped controlling. I have to use like keyboard and mouse now, that's weird. Okay, here we are. Hey Foxy. Oh, see some very fluffy. There is a dedicated bark button. I can jump. The main thing that I regret is that I can't hold down the bark button to scream. Like, I am a fox, I ought to be able to scream. Out of controller. But yeah, in case you were wondering, you haven't missed anything. It is a cold open. A very cold open. Oh, also there's a wag the tail button. Yeah, dedicated buttons both for parking and wagging the tail. 10 out of 10 game. Take notes. Yeah, like, I'm leaving a trail in the snow, my tail can, like, actually displace the snow. When you pet the fox, you are the fox, but I think you can get petted. It's just there aren't very many things with hands. Yeah, there's some kind of terrifying miasma. And as a dutiful fox, I ought to check it out. It's my duty to take care of such things. Also, we're running a little tiny little bit late today. I started like 5 minutes late, and the reason for that is this game consumed all of my PC settings, like all of my system resources, and my VTuber was a slideshow. And it turns out that the frame rate was running uncapped. So it was just like consuming everything. So I had to like go into like control panel and like manually cap it to 60 FPS. This is fine though, I get to be a fox. I get to wag my tail. Yeah, this doesn't feel like a smooth 60. Let's try putting that down to just normal. That feels a bit better. Look at how pretty this ice is. Yeah, this is an Unreal Engine game. They tend to be hungry. Hey look, here's a person with hands. They can pet me, right? Right? Regrettable, they seem disinclined to pet me. Behold. No. I now have a magical staff. I bet this belonged to somebody. And then they thank me for bringing them their staff, and they open the way for me. And of all the shamans in the game, I have found one so far. That guy was a shaman. They are not all mandatory. That one was mostly just to like introduce the effect. Or the mechanic, rather. To get the Kitsune, you have to get a lot of shamans. Shamans? Shamai. I also know that this game has a sequel, and in the sequel they actually got the foxes from Save a Fox, the voice act, into like sort of like the models, like references for the actual like fox characters. So that's super cool of them. But I don't have the second game, I've only got the first one. Music reminds me a little bit of Rayman 3. I've never actually played Rayman 3. Mocap Finnegan? I don't know if it was mocap, it might have been. But Finnegan absolutely is in Spirit of the North too. Like there's a skin that is just Finnegan. Speaking of foxes... But yeah, if you, so like the Save a Fox stuff in Spirit of the North 2 is paid DLC, and the proceeds actually go to Save a Fox if you get it. So that's super cool. Anyway, I can't fly yet, so I had to take the lane way down. Or can I? Maybe I'm magic and I just don't know it yet. You can't ever fly if you don't ever jump. Reveal to me your secrets. This other fox certainly isn't making life easy for me. Also, wet fur's gotta suck when it's this cold. Well, that was rude. You shall deny me no longer, friend Fox. We will be friends. I wonder what's going on over here. Like I say, I have played this game before, it's just been so long that I have forgotten most details from it. Yeah, we're both foxes, that means that we're friends. We do a little screaming. A little bit of crime. We appear to be on the same page now. This is good. And then we go fast. Okay, I can't do that part. I'm gonna have to learn that one. I really enjoy ice caves like this. It'd probably be like a lot darker than this, but it's still nice. Balls of ice yield before the will of the fox. Yeah, I guess if it was like relatively close to the surface and like light was able to filter through the ice or whatever, that could be nice. In this case, though, I think it's mostly just magic. And or the superior night vision of a fox. Yeah, I'm familiar with like the Ice Hotel. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it. That is super cool. I just think it's cool in general to like make things out of ice. It's a little bit sad that they're ephemeral, but like that's also like part of their beauty, I guess. Wonder where my other fox friend is. Well, there's only so many places I could go. You know what this has reminded me of? This has brought back a really, really old memory. When I was a child, I had a Bionicle game on CD-ROM. Except, like, my family's PC, because I was a small child. My family's PC wasn't actually strong enough to run games, and I just didn't understand the concept of, like, computers having different magnitudes of power. It's like that Bionicle game would run at, like, 5 FPS, and there were, like, no textures on anything. And just, like, going down that sliding segment where everything was white just brought that memory back after, like, 20 plus years. Also, yes, I should be able to hold down the bark button to scream. I'll have to remove 1 point from this game's final score, leaving it a 10 out of 10. This, however, is fine. I can wag my tail. Which is the natural response to being a fox. It's really quite pleasant. I'm on an adventure. I kind of forgot that I could run. It's just really fun to trot around as a fox. Here's my fox friend. There appears to be a dead body here. And there appears to be a dead body's possession here. Here, have this. And I missed a shaman along the way. Oh well. It would have been funny if the staff just kinda like bonked. Like, oh no. Silly fox. Fox to fox communication. Like, imagine the fox having ragdoll physics and spinning in midair. I mean, that does sound like something that a fox would do. Be an absolute goober and just do like tricks in midair. Oh no, I run out of... But I lived. The rotation allowed me to parry the bullet. Oh, this sure looks important. And I'm dead. So yeah, whatever that stuff is, it's not good for foxes. It's okay, the other fox exploded it. Everything is fine. I lived. I am a little bit hurt. But that's okay. But yeah, now when I bark, they'll bark back. Like, don't worry, we're together. It's also useful if you get lost. Is you like bark, and I think that they'll bark back to tell you where to go. Hey, look, another fox. Mountain. There's a fox frolicking in the skies above it. There appear to be a great many people, having built a wonderful society, worshipping the fox, as they ought to. And at the very top, a fox. As it ought to be. We watch over and protect. And in turn, we get Switches and Chimkin. It's symbiotic. Yeah, foxes are better to smoke government than democracy because democracy might get it wrong, fox won't. Yeah, then the fox went away and things, didn't go well. So the fox is gone. The mountain has erupted. The people are dead. You should have just kept the fox around. And that's how it goes. Yeah, like actually the fox was the load-bearing component. We are the keystone. The Keystone Sune. Nope. I might be hurt, but I can still yoink. I think these light up when you're like getting closer to their owner. I also can't bark with it in my mouth. But it's okay, I know where the other fox is. But yeah, I guess with the fox sealed in the mountain? Question mark? Everything's kind of like going to crap. Society is falling, people are dying. Fox is clearly sympathetic. This stone has another fox engraved on it. Yeah, like maybe they forsook the fox. Hard to say. I do believe I found the owner of this staff. I missed another shaman along the way. Oh well. Some of them are really well hidden, I recall. I'm not gonna concern myself too much with getting all of them, but if I spot one, I'll try to help them out. This is one of those games that's kind of like more like an art piece. Not in a bad way. Well, this looks special. And then I take a little nap. And now, not only am I healed, but I've got magic powers. Very shiny. This looks like something I ought to be able to get into, but if memory serves, I spent a long time trying it back in the day and I couldn't. But yeah, by wagging my tail, I was able to put magic into this rock. And then I can take the magic back. But the way is only open if I put the magic in the rock, so into the rock the magic goes. Use phosphorus when painting your hair. Is it glowing all night and you couldn't sleep because of it? That sounds like a decision, alright. I was seeing a preview of my future model. It would probably look an awful lot like this because it's a fox. And I'm a fox. It's always so cool the way that, like, basalt, like, naturally forms these hexagon formations. And then we jump. With the markings on the body, I'm probably not gonna go too nutty with body markings. At least at first. Down the line, maybe. I do think that they're very pretty. We'll see. Having the trail be an aurora like that is super pretty. I like that. Hey, that looks like a rock I gotta put magic in. These flowers look magic. Thank you for the magic flower. Yeah, I gotta be a little bit careful with wagging my tail now, because that is how I release the magic. Magic is contained in the tail, after all. Yeah, I can only hold so much magic at once. So if I use up the magic that I have, I can come back there and get some. There's some here as well, by the looks of it. This is fine. Sometimes things fall over a little bit, that's okay. We can all agree it's not the fox's fault. Gotta figure out how to get up there. That wasn't too bad. How's it going? I think he's dead. Somewhat unfortunate. If I had been sneaky, having taken a shower, now I am not. And a bath. Truly, I'm dedicated to cleanliness. I can't recall if there were some flowers back here that I could reach. This here is sitting me this way, so... this is fine. There's a super pretty flower in Glacial Mountains you just want to see in person one day. Let us know if it gives you magical powers. Oh, there's a step. Okay, where was what's-his-face? I gotta bring his magic stick to him. He's not a fox, so he doesn't have a tail to put his magic in. How unfortunate. I feel like I've lost track of him. I know there was a guy back here, but I don't know if I can get back there. Yeah, I think I might be getting invisible wall downs. Yeah, the fox is just turning around on their own. Unfortunate. This is fine. That looks a little bit bottomless, not gonna lie. Mildly terrifying. But it's okay because I'm a fox. I'm magic. I can't be contained. Lots of magic in this cave. But it can look like this if it has enough calcium in it. Remember, water, if you want to be blue, drink your milk. Well, let's not fall in there if we can help it. This is fine. I think I might have missed the opportunity to give the guy his staff. But I don't want to drop it just yet. Unfortunate. We made it that far without falling. Also, I like how the magic power is giving like a wireframe X-ray of my ears through the flap. That's cute. I like that. Almost fell in. We do a little bit of bonking off walls. This is fine. This game reminds you to collect moss. Interesting connection to make, not gonna lie. Is because moss and fox rhyme? Because if so, that's kind of weird because they don't. And the water level goes back down. Yeah, I kind of think that I'm well and truly past the point where I could get the stick back. At this point, I kind of just want to see how far I can take it. I like how if I jump without, without having like a direction, I just do this. Power, please give me power. This one doesn't want to obey me for some reason. I don't know why. There we go. And then the water level goes down even further. I think I'll leave the stick here. This is totally a fine place to honor the shaman who lost it. I just annihilated those pillars with the power of my mind. That was all me. Totally. That's how this works. see a shiny thing up there. I see a stone thing over there. Is there a dedicated mousing button? I don't believe so. Like, see, I can jump like this, which is kind of like, the right kind of jump for that, but beyond just jumping in general, not really. Right, I presume that I want to raise the water level again. And I am charged with power, so I simply need to find a place to use it. That looks like a place to use it, but I have to figure out how to get up there. It's a little bit high to just jump. This is some stuff over there. Obviously there's that there. There's that thing over there that I'm interested in. That's where I came from. There are flowers there if I lose my glow. As well as there. I wonder if there's something in any of the pools. Like they're bubbling, maybe they'll like shoot me up. Doesn't seem like it. Spirit friend is like, do it like this. Oh, hello there. Thank you, Spirit friend. You think they're just hot springs now? I think that they're a way up. Yeah. We just needed a little bit of fox magic, that's all. This is fine. Fox magic increasing volcanic activity. If anything, we're like redirecting it towards, productive uses. A lack of fox magic in civilizations. I'm going to take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom, anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. This is one of those games where it just like awkwardly cuts out the audio if I click out. Yeah, 5-minute break. I return. And I EP. But I wake. This is fine. Give me your powers, Flower. Thank you very much. Whenever I see these things, they remind me of the Forsworn ruins from Skyrim. Kind of like a similar, like, animal bone ornamentation aesthetic thing. These flowers are very pretty. There should be a button to scream at them. Also, I double-checked because it sounded off, and in the first game they didn't actually have the budget to record a real fox, so these are dog noises. In the second game they have actual foxes. I was like, this doesn't quite sound like a fox. Foxes are like more shrill. It's fine though. The main thing that defines a fox is mischief. And magic. And fluff. And adorableness. And I've got plenty of all of that, so... Oh, speaking of things that I've got... Nom. Oh dear. Ugh. This is fine. Not as OP as cats. Nah, foxes are more OP. Cats don't have wall hacks. You ever seen a cat do this? Didn't actually accomplish anything. Guess I can go this way. I can also sneak around the edge of this thing. That doesn't seem to get me anywhere though. I saw a spot right over here, like the corruption. Yeah, I don't want to go there. I probably want to go there. I wonder if I need to, like, purge that thing to be able to go that way. You like to assume that I pulled that thing on demand? It's less that I pulled it on demand and more that, like, the aura of chaos that surrounds me as a fox ensured that I would have a demonstration at hand to make my point. It screamed. And so the fox jump, the fox catch fire, the fox stand, the fox jump. It's all very fox. Here, have some magic. That's where I was before. Nom. It's a very strong back leg. Fitting for somebody who is very powerful. I have the magic pack. Does that close the thing? Doesn't look like it. I wish to ascend. Let me up. Thank you. Oh, there we go. Two of the four foxglyph things are now no longer mad. I am once again starting to suspect that I missed the opportunity to, give whoever owns this stick their stick back. Soundtrack kind of reminds me of Mad World. Not the comparison I would have ever expected. Isn't Mad World like a super punchy, like, rock thing? ascend. My power is uncontainable. Okay, I can do like a super bark. I don't actually know what that accomplishes. Maybe it purges my asthma. That is exactly what it does. Alright. Oh, did I not bring enough power to fully do it? That's fine. I'll bring more. I presume that I need a third one to charge the thing. That's fine. I'm a fox, I'm very powerful. Plenty to spare. Oh, did I not finish the whole thing? Oops, if so. Well, I guess that's the chapter. Well, I got Super Bark now. I might just need to find like more copies of that stone rather than having to do like all 4 notches on it right then and there. Also, I've got a bug where my controller is permanently vibrating. I guess because I ran through a loading zone while it was vibrating. So it's just gonna keep doing that until I find something else to make it vibrate. This game is so very pretty. I like just frolicking through these fields. Though I can see the tiling on the texture over there, which is slightly less pretty, but, you know, we don't hold that against it. I feel like that was the exact same pose that, Spyro hits when he's, like, falling. I wish to charge up a Super Bark. Maybe I'll find the owner of this one. Like I say, a lot of these shamans are like hard to find. The funny thing is, you actually get the Kitsune skin by finding most of them. I think Kitsune is like the second highest tier unlock. The highest tier unlock is a Tanuki skin. So obviously, you know, Kitsune is the one that you stop on. But still. I now have 2 stick and no shaman. Okay, that looks like a body. Here, have this. I have missed 4 shamans. Oh no. This is fine. Like I say, they're mostly optional. I've already got the stuff that you get for finding them. Thanks, Ariel, from a while ago. This stick is mine now. Shaman gets to the afterlife, and another shaman's just like, hey, that's my stick. Or shaman's like, how can you tell? They all look the same. This place is pretty. I like it in here. There's like a weird bit of like red footprint stuff here. That's odd. Stretched texture there. That's also odd. Oh no, it's pulling her in. I insist you release her. Now I am the spirit. Okay, so that thing's like siphoning my spirit energy. Oh, did I get it? I think I got it at the last second. Awesome. It was like eating me, but I blew up just as it ate me. It's probably for the best that I saved the spirit from that. Also, yeah, that gate was very Twilight Princess coded. I hear that the, I hear that the PC ports, because there's like 2 of them, for Twilight Princess are actually really, really good these days. I am super looking forward to playing that game on stream. It's probably my all-time favorite Zelda. I feel like it's probably a lot of people's all-time favorite Zelda. It's just a super good game in general. Definitely like one of the better 3D Zeldas. That shot of like Link on Ephona's back, holding up the Master Sword on Elden Ridge, is iconic for a reason. Yeah, the fox statues have been destroyed. Sure, it'd be a shame if somebody exploded in retribution. Well, that didn't work. Alright, exploding didn't work, so I'm kind of out of ideas. I'm gonna have to brainstorm, troubleshoot. This is fine. I appear to have become trapped. Well, 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 what have we here? Oh. Okay, so there are multiples of this pillar. Presumably I will get a new power from this. Generally, somebody's favorite Zelda's when they play when they were 12. That's fair. Nostalgia be a very powerful thing. It's not lit up, so it's a little bit hard to see, but by the forelimb of the third box, one that just lit up, there's a little sleeping box there. It's very cute. I ascend. Okay, so this power is astral projection. I can take a nap and send my soul out to go do things. That is the face of mischief. I can only be outside of my body for so long, though. Making this jump might be difficult. Okay. It's also just a teensy bit difficult to control this game in general. It's not even a four legs thing, it's just kind of like a little bit awkward to control. Like if you were here, I would give you the controller for a second, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I get it now. What if I give the magic back to this other thing? Like, it's not bad, it's just not as slick as a game like, say, I don't know, Hollow Knight. Like, it doesn't need to be that slick, it's just... Sometimes I'm messing up a jump and it's just like, oh. This is awkward. Maybe that's not where I go? Oh, I can walk on water as a ghost. That would explain it. And then I deliver magic there. There we go. I was like, that looks like something I had to be able to jump onto. Then the thought crossed my mind, hey, what if I use the power that, like, I unlocked in here? Maybe I'll learn something. Alright, that gate that I couldn't explode before, maybe now I can just walk through. Even covered in terrifying miasma, this area is so pretty. I like this game. Shizu. That tower on the left looks a little bit precarious. I question its structural integrity. It's missing its whole left. I feel like it would collapse under its own weight. Like the Rich and Twilight Princess? Which one? That looks shiny. Let's go there. Lord of the Lake? Does not ring a bell, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, there's the fox mural, missing the fox. Have some fox. Need some magic to get in there. Okay, I might borrow some magic from this mural. Wait, that's where I just was. I went in a big circle, I guess. must have gotten very turned around. Oh well. I think that's where the stuff was. We both detonated for explosion. Heck yeah. Like, how do you even defend against a fox astral projecting straight through your defenses and then exploding? You don't. Instead, you make sure that she's on your side by petting her on the head and giving her chimkin. Also, my controller has been vibrating this entire time. I actually fear ever so slightly for the motor in it. I'm sure it'll be fine. Giant stone Cheerio. Oh, there we go. I presume I either have to leave my body there and send my ghost in, or vice versa. Well, my ghost has no weight. That answers that. That took the red out of that thing. Presumably I can now fill it with blue. Oh, hey look, some blue. Excellent. Here, have some fox. It's good for you. As you can see, no fox bad, fox good. It's practically an axiom with how self-evident it is. Yeah, see, these people didn't have foxes, and look what happened to them. One day foxes will be free of tickets of bad PR. I'm doing my part. That's the mural where the volcano erupted and people died. Very tragic. It seems like in that marshy area, I can't sprint or jump. Just in case you're wondering why I'm not doing those. EFW, no fox. Okay, so when the volcano erupts, people die. And when there is fox, people are happy. Easy. Can't quite make that jump. I'm sensing that I might be about to do another fox explosion. I feel like I'm close to a nexus of corruption. Hey look, a nexus of corruption. I ought to explode that. I think I wasn't meant to explode there. I think I was meant to assault the pillars again. For a fox, explosion magic will probably be a cantrip, so it depends on what you mean by explosion. And also like what system we're in. Hi, blue flowers. You ever sneeze so hard your soul leaves its body? That has happened to this fox at least once. Okay, that was volcano, so people need to be dead. And then there was another one over here. Volcano, people need to be dead for that one as well. need to market that one more time. Surely I can blow this up. No, no I cannot. There's probably more blue flowers ahead. Just the fear that there might not be sends me back to get more power. I like being charged. The poor spirit is probably really sad that all these people are dead and their civilization is in ruins. Alright, that looks like a thing that I can bark explode. Hogsgate, indeed. This one, however, is titled, so we can't do as much chaos as one might like. And maybe I'm blind, but I don't see any magic here, so I'm gonna have to go get some from elsewhere. But that's okay, because I'm a fox, so I go fast. Imagine if you could just, like, grow flowers by barking at them. It'd probably make life as a gardener really easy. Unless I, like, grew the wrong kind of flower. Now I'm imagining running like an invasive pest or an invasive plant elimination service, and like sneaking into people's properties to like bark at their flowers, so that they'll hire me to get rid of the flowers that I barked at. Well, that didn't quite go the way I wanted it to. I am actually stuck. I'm actually stuck. I can jump and I can do not much else. Mistakes may have been made. Well, this game is a photo mode? I didn't even realize that. Let's just take that photo. Alright. Okay, napping made my body fall out. Heck yeah. When in doubt, take a nap. Ooh, stick. No. It's immediately reacting, so there must be a body, like, right nearby. Here we are. Found you sick. I'm helping. Yeah, I missed another 3 shaman. This is fine. Fox statue. These people clearly had good taste in decorations. And there's another one of those doors that I have to... Alright, let's see. So, there's Fox, so people are happy. That is a mural. I'll put some magic in that one. There's no Fox, so people are dead. And over here, people are building, so I guess people are building. The main one that really matters is that when there is Fox, people are happy. I think the murals, I think that there's an achievement for lighting up every mural in the game. In case you're wondering what the point of those are, I'm pretty sure it's for an achievement. But like in general, they just look nice, so may as well like them if I spot them. Oh yes, a Fox. Heck yeah. I don't seem able to put magic into that Fox statue, unfortunate. Oh, I'm sneezing. That's usually an indicator that I can Fox explode something. Bark explode. Destroy. Yeah, switch like this, I leave my body on. Yeah, there's a dead body in there. It's okay, I don't think he's going anywhere. And this reminds me of where I got the Guardian powers. A similar fox hinge. Okay, I cannot put fox magic into there because there is evil non-fox magic in there already. Therefore, I must destroy. Looks like there might be more than one while we're at it. Because that only cleared the corruption off of one of them. One at a time, though. It doesn't appear to be incremental. That's okay. Alright, what other, bundles of corruption might I come across? I see one up there. That looked more like a staircase from over there. Yeah, that one I'm gonna have to zip across and then explode. Luckily I'm good at both of those things. Is it one or two more that I gotta do? Looks like two more. Yeah, two more. This is fine. It looks like there's just another one over there. I would take the same route, just not as a ghost. I've fallen down totally on purpose. Let's fill those 2 stones with magic while I'm here. And there's one more corruption thing I gotta get rid of. Yeah, the way I'm thinking is, like, the next time we hit, like, a checkpoint or whatever, that could be when I call up the stream. I feel like we're almost there. More magic, please, Flower. Thank you, Flower. So the last one's there. The last corruption bulb is up there. I could just go around again. What do I keep wasting magic on? Gestures at everything. There's a lot of magic that needs doing. By foxes, specifically. Alright, that should be the last of the corruption in this area. And then once more we take a bath. Yay, water slide. Going off the vibe, it seems like we've purged a fair amount of the corruption from this area in general. It's still pretty red though, so not as much as I would have liked. Still, it's something. Water's flowing, that's nice. Right, and that was chapter 5. Well timed. Let's call it there for the night. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Friday. The game is going to be on Epic. The next time that I'm playing Spirit of the North in particular is going to be on Wednesday. I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope to see you again. Thank you for the head counts. If I don't push any buttons for long enough, the fox will fall asleep. So I'll just wait for that and then we'll go to the end screen. How majestic. Also, the controller has been vibrating this entire time, so... like, not hard, just like a little bit, but still. Come on, Fox, take a nap. I know you're tired. You're a fox, you're always tired. Your Gmos are screaming and sleeping. wonder if this game kind of has a thing like Mario Galaxy does, where like there are just like places where you don't go to sleep. Because in Mario Galaxy, if you go AFK for too long, Mario falls asleep, but there are certain places where it's like tense and he doesn't do it. So like he'll never fall asleep in a Bowser fight, for example. But he can fall asleep directly in front of Luigi, screaming for him to help him get out of prison. Maybe because of the incline. Hey, look, I fell asleep. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Good night.